Hello, in this video I'm at the Amulet Authentication Center. Here we've had the chance to welcome everyone from people from the countryside all the way to celebrities. If you're in Loe, he's very famous here, Associate Professor. Dr. Awe Prachuap Sombun, former president of Loe Rajabhat University, has brought a Buddha amulet to be examined at T-Lab today. T-Lab said, "Hey, lucky me, I get to teach a doctor." Take a look. The doctor said he had to come see the amulet. Today, I have a topic to discuss. As someone with a science background, we'll talk with the doctor about whether science helps us reach the truth or why the doctor believes that science can be used to examine Buddha amulets. Hello, doctor.
Hello,
What is doctor's nickname?
my name is.
What do your friends call you?
The name Prachuap is mostly called Ju.
If a friend greets you, what would you call it? Kiss.
Kiss,
Dress.
you kiss.
How many years have you kissed the retired doctor?
I retired in 55, so it's been over 10 years now.
So, doctor, what did you study for your bachelor's and master's degree?
I graduated with a bachelor's degree in chemistry, then a master's degree in chemistry as well. But I pursued my doctorate in higher education studies from Chulalongkorn University.
So how can this device measure the molecular value of Buddha amulets? As a chemistry scholar, doctor, could you explain this?
Chemistry fundamentally means that everything around us, like the very soil, the water we drink, the air we breathe, and all these essential things are intricately made up of their own distinct components.
Yes.
For example, water has a clear formula, H2O, but soil is made up of various minerals that come together. Soil consists of different parts rocks. Soil itself and the minerals in the soil have a lot of components.
Yes.
But when it comes to air, the main components are nitrogen and oxygen and so on in descending proportions. Nitrogen is the highest.
Doctor, do you believe that scientific instruments can clearly analyze the components inside a Buddha image?
I studied chemistry. So for example, if I want to analyze something, let's say I'm doing research, if I'm researching something, I would take the substance, I'll extract it and analyze it using scientific instruments. The scientific instruments I use for analysis include the NMR machine, the IR machine, the UV machine. All these have their own spectra and then we read them. For example, this peak represents hydrogen, that peak represents H2, it tells us everything. Now, these instruments, these scientific instruments, when it comes to checking amulets, why do I come to you, T? Because if we go to let an expert look at them, they'll examine the mold and look through a magnifying glass. But they can't, if you use a scientific microscope. First, it can tell you the age of the amulet, how many years old it is. Second, it can analyze the components of the amulet. If it's a clay amulet, what elements are present, what minerals are included. The soil from each place, like Nakhon Pathom or Bangkok, is different. The components are not the same. For example, if we take soil from Kampang and use it to make an amulet like this, it will have the unique characteristics of Kampang soil. So these tools provide clear and reliable answers. They are modern solutions. Scientific methods for verifying amulets, what we call the scientific approach. Nowadays, technology is very modern. Take Mr. T's equipment, for example. He invested a lot in it. Suppose I have a King Powerade amulet, right? The King Powerade amulet contains gold, silver, tin, zinc, and other elements as its components. What's important is that Mr. T's equipment, it can precisely tell you exactly what specific percentage of precious gold, conductive copper, versatile zinc, and durable tin are truly present. And this is something you can't argue with, you can't dispute, because these are clear, definitive components. This is very clear. So, if you have Mr. T, check it. You can guarantee whether our amulet is genuine or not. Yes, I'm actually one of Mr. T's customers. I brought hundreds of amulets to be tested.
Hundreds of amulets, all of them.
They were fakes and genuine.
And did you gain any knowledge from it?
Of course. We had discussions about it.
We discussed it.
Because when I come to have it checked, I'll ask Mr. T why it's not genuine, what makes it not genuine. What are the signs that show it's not real? Sometimes Mr. T,
he has to be able to point out features indicating it's not genuine.
He'll bring a genuine item to compare with the fake one. Mr. T, for the most part, has a standard for amulets, right? He'll say, this is what a genuine amulet looks like. The one I'm checking, if it's not real, it's a pressed amulet, or it has certain marks, or the texture is off. If you look at the surface, it's different, Professor.
And what about you, Professor? You're a doctor. While I'm just...
Oh, that's medicine, doctor's medicine, not yet.
Can you find something to argue with me about? We have to debate.
We have to debate, to keep debating until we get somewhere. We need to argue with reason, not just stubbornly insist my amulet is genuine. I rented it for tens of thousands. Why did I rent it for so much? Only to be accused of having a fake. What do you mean fake? Who did I rent it from? It was so expensive.
And another thing, let me take that bell, speaking from a scientific perspective. If I take ancient metal to cast amulets so that they look old, but then I burn it and reforge it, will it still be considered ancient? Listen, when people say that if you take old metal amulets and reforge them, will they still be considered ancient? You have to use heat to reforge them.
If you take the original authentic bell and simply use it as is, the material itself is still inherently old. It's still the very same old stuff. But if I were to make it completely from scratch, since if you make it anew in, say, 2500 BE, 2502 BE, and then remake it again this year, 2560 BE, the materials used in the old and new processes are completely different. The technology for melting metal in the old days, the villagers' way, didn't have the kind of heat we have today. Nowadays, melting is done not just with heat from a furnace, but also with other types of fuel or even infrared, which can melt everything. So, while the material may be old, the way the substances bond together is different.
Listen carefully, Professor. Is it possible for us to know, in the scientific community or globally, whether there are records showing how much heat could be generated each year? For example, in the casting of Buddha images, are there chronological records of how much heat was achieved each year?
No, there aren't any at all.
This world records scientific advancements in casting Buddha images.
Well, as for the casting process, I don't really know whether they meticulously record it or not, but the technology in terms of science keeps continuously developing. For example, 10 years ago, the heat level was at a certain point, but 10 years later the temperature is completely different because it's significantly advanced. The sources of fuel they use now are precisely the same as the ones used in the past.
Back then, around 2,500 years ago, we couldn't generate much heat in the ancient era.
The ancient era.
They couldn't generate much heat.
I mean, when casting old or ancient Buddha images, they would melt the metal using fire.
Wood fire.
Wood fire or whatever kind of...
Wood fire, charcoal fire, or gas fire.
But nowadays, no matter how hard the metal is, or how tough the alloy is even, if it's bulletproof or whatever the heat they can generate, can overcome it.
Days they can do it.
They can do it. Today's technology has advanced tremendously.
You know, when it comes to education, you also need to understand the production process. In the past, in our country, in our homes, chemistry as a subject started around the year. What year was it?
Oh, it's a field of knowledge that's been passed down among us.
At what point did chemistry become a subject in universities and educational institutions?
Oh, right from the very beginning. From the moment we're born, we're already involved with chemistry. For a long time, it's been about food chemistry, about the substances and things, everything that makes up our basic necessities. is all related to chemistry.
Professor, could you explain why soil is the same but not the same?
What do you mean?
Soil is the same, but why isn't it the same?
Well, how could it be the same? Soil is divided into clay, sand, and various other types. They're already different from each other.
And then it's divided by province too.
It's divided by province as well. For example, why is Phetchabun the best place in Thailand to grow sweet tamarind? If you take sweet tamarind and plant it in Loei, which is right next to Nakhon Pathom, it just doesn't turn out the same. The taste isn't as sweet as when it's grown in Phetchabun. Or take our hometown, for instance. Nakhon Chai Pomelo soil in Nakhon Chai is especially suited for pomelo. If you plant it elsewhere, it's just not the same. Or like the durian from Nonthaburi, for example.
Do you truly think that modern science has significantly changed the entire amulet industry, in your considered opinion?
It has definitely changed. Because in the past, for example, amulets could be worth tens of millions. And we would just trust the experts, right? But nowadays, not only can we verify the year it was made, whether it's 100 or 200 years ago, but we can also analyze all the materials that make up the amulet.
Yes.
And another thing is, nowadays, when people rent amulets, this is very important. Well, if you don't believe it, that's up to you, but nowadays, for example, the Chinese can actually sense the sacred power of an amulet. When they rent an amulet, besides checking for authenticity and whether it's real or fake, they also check if the amulet possesses sacred power. If an amulet doesn't have sacred power, it's just like hanging a piece of clay or something else around your neck. But if it does have sacred power, then it will protect you.
So don't look down on or underestimate people who believe in the power of sacred amulets. Nowadays, people believe in this as those who follow the scientific approach.
It's just as strong, just as powerful. Because nowadays, when it comes to renting these sacred amulets, people sometimes we see it and think, oh, that's just a mere scam. But actually, it's a profound medium for each and every individual, something they are truly born with.
Yes.
It's the merit and virtue they've accumulated from past lives, which allows them to sense the sacred power. It's something very personal, not something universal.
If someone looks down on the art of sensing sacred power, well, if they say the amulet is fake, it might not sell at all.
Yes, because right now, especially abroad in places like China, what's important is that the amulet must possess sacred power. The question is whether that amulet can truly protect them.
They've already reached that point.
They've reached it.
For those who underestimate or look down on sacred amulets, they're testing methods that's their specialized field, and it has its effects.
Me, ever since I was born, I've been able to truly and deeply divine the inherent power and mystical properties of various amulets and ancient talismans.
So you sense it too.
I can sense the power in every amulet, whether it has it or not. But for me, this is something that's been with me since birth.
Oh,
But if someone genuinely doesn't believe it, then they simply just don't believe it. It's as straightforward and simple as that.
can I please try it? This is a brand new and truly fascinating amulet. What specific series is this? I honestly don't even know. I'm going to carefully sense its profound sacred power. Professor, may I respectfully ask, which particular discipline do you primarily use for your studies? You are indeed an assistant professor and a highly respected doctor, right? He profoundly believes in the immense power of these sacred amulets. This is a very new and significant amulet, specifically the Chao Sua Foot the Corn Sawan coin, which is quite remarkable.
It great virtue.
Oh,
By great virtue, I mean, let me hold it like this.
Professor, turn that way, please. This is an assistant professor, after all. You know,
If this amulet truly possesses sacred power, let it not extend any further. See, it doesn't move at all. But if it really has sacred power, let it extend. then let it be even longer than this. Let's try again. If it truly has sacred power, let it show its power by making it shorter, like this.
No one should look down on those who sense energy. It's their field of expertise, a unique ability they possess.
It's something they're born with.
And if you go to China, if you don't have any sacred power, it's over for you, even if you're a top level master in the country.
But in China, they use the concept of yin and yang,
They typically use their own people, for these kinds of tasks.
meaning they would put the amulet into a piece of metal that's split in two.
Yes.
If the amulet has sacred power, the metal will separate, right?
Yes.
But if it doesn't have any sacred power, no matter how you try, the two pieces of metal just won't come apart.
You really need to study this in depth, not just stick to one approach. This is pure science. We're talking about someone who finished a bachelor's and a master's degree in science. Still couldn't quite figure it out, even now.
I actually have a master's degree. When I analyze various substances that I obtain, I always have to use scientific instruments. For example, basic tools like X-ray machines, I have to use them for X-ray analysis.
What exactly was your thesis about?
For my master's degree, my academic thesis was specifically about extracting various steroid compounds from the common mint plant. In the northern regions, there's a widely held belief that if expectant pregnant women consume mint, their children will be born with certain characteristics or conditions.
Have an easier delivery.
No, not about easier delivery.
They'll be smarter.
In street language, Luke means child, right? What kind of child are we talking about?
Okay, you can send it over.
It can actually cause miscarriage if you eat too much.
Oh, I see.
But you would have to consume many, many kilos of it. All right. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
So, here we have the esteemed assistant professor, Dr. Prachuap, right? How many years have you been retired?
I retired from my professional career. I officially retired in the year 2012.
Huh?
Yeah, the year 2012.
Is he still working?
When you meet people like this, don't be too hard on them. After I retired, I took on the mission of helping my students finish their master's degrees, for which I was the principal advisor, and also their PhDs. Once they graduated, my duties at Rajabhat University were complete. They even became experts in their field, some of the best at Rajabhat. That brought a lot of prestige. Back when I was there, it was all about science, especially food science and science at Chulalongkorn University. Later on, they even opened a new faculty engineering in the engineering department. There were students enrolling. But one thing about Rajabhat University is Rajabhat has its root in teacher training. The strength of the university lies in the teaching programs, which have always attracted a lot of students. Back in my time, when students graduated, they could take the exam to become teachers, and many of them succeeded. Prachuap lecturers were often primary or secondary school teachers, and most of our graduates could pass the exams at all levels, from primary, secondary, even higher education and vocational level. If they took the placement exams, they could become instructors at any institution. Some even went on to become rectors, deans, or presidents, whether it was when we were still Teachers College or later as Rajabhat University. During my time as president, that was the period of transition from college to university. Teachers were the foundation, and Rajabhat was an institution before anything else. It wasn't a university yet. It became a university later. When I was there, it was Chandrakasam Teachers College. I just found out that my college was actually better than other teachers' colleges because mine trained secondary school teachers. The thing is, it focused on secondary education. It wasn't specifically for primary or secondary. It depended on where you took the civil service exam and got placed. But at Chandrakasam, What made it outstanding was that it was one of the oldest teachers' colleges, like Day Teachers College. Swansananda Teachers College, Mahanakon, Chandrakasam, these were all teachers' colleges established from the very beginning, from the earliest days of teacher training. The very first regional teacher training institute was in Lopburi. That is, Lopburi had a teacher training college, but before that, teacher training was done without an actual college. It started a teacher training school, then became a teacher's college. First as a teacher training school, then a college. Teacher training lasted a while before becoming a college. Then colleges became Rajabhat Institute, which were upgraded to Rajabhat University, developing to university level. Hello, so teachers, you see, if I had known, if I had studied to become a university president, I would always tease the professors and ask to see them. I really respect Professor Surafong as a junior. Whenever there's an event for Professor Surafong, I always attend and I always run into Kuntab Chazor. Well, next time we meet at an event, thank you very much, teacher. Thank you. When should we use through teacher and when a John, professor? Listening to academics talk, which one is higher, Kru or Ajan? Actually, Kru and Ajan have the same meaning. We tend to separate them. At elementary, we call them Kru, teacher. At secondary, we start calling them Ajan, professor. So from secondary school onward, we use Ajan. Students won't call their secondary school teachers Kru. They won't refer to secondary school teachers as Kru, but will call them Ajarn instead. But as for Ajarn, or myself, since I teach at the university, no one calls me Kru. They call me Ajarn, always Ajarn. However, most of the time, when I talk to my students, I don't refer to myself as Ajarn. I use the pronoun Kru. I call myself Kru, Kru, Kru. They mean the teacher. The weight of the word Kru carries a certain gravity. It's knowledge that goes beyond just words. So when do we use Kru and when do we use Ajarn? In the university, it's Ajarn. But when I'm in the classroom at the university, I'm a Kru because I teach students. That's why when I refer to myself while speaking to students or in general, I use the pronoun to call myself a Kroa teacher. At Prachuap University, there are two of us who have taught millions of graduates already. Up to 1 million Rajabhat has appointed us as a college. I've been a teacher since 1973 onward, so it should be 1 million by now, right? But maybe not yet. If we're talking about graduates, I don't think it's quite that many yet. Because if we think about it, back when I was at Rajabhat Lowy, each year, each class, there would be about 2,000 graduates receiving their degrees on average. And that's 2,000 people already. Nowadays, the number of graduates attending the commencement ceremony has decreased because there are so many universities now, and those who graduate from grade 6 graduates can now enter higher education in large numbers. So it's unlikely to reach that number. If we average it out, say 2,000 per year over 10 years, that's 20,000. Over 20 years, that's 40,000. 40,000 is still not quite there yet. But as for Chandrakasam has been open since BE 2,490, those who studied at the Teachers College in Bangkok. You can be proud that your college at first had about 2,495 or 56, if I remember correctly. But as for me, I studied at Sarakam, and they established it since 2500 BE at Mahasarakam. The professor can speak Isan, right? Hey, since I'm here, let me say something one last time. Today is a good day, which means the Abbot well, it's a personal belief. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hey, so we're agreed, right? This is really close now.